Welcome to Three Count Commentaries. And today we're going to talk about the Andrade Kenny Omega fallout. So I did a review on the match. So if you want to talk about the match, go see my TripleMania review. This is going to be about the fallout of the match because there was a lot of stuff happening that came out of this match. So what am I going to talk about today? Well, there's several different subjects. One is that supposedly AEW and Tony Khan changed the finish to that match. Two, that people are now starting to say that Andrade is lazy. Third is the fans turning on Andrade. And fourth is Andrade's response. So let's get right into it. So apparently, according to Wrestling Observer newsletter and other wrestling websites, if you take this for, this is just gossip, so it's speculation, that Tony Khan and AEW wanted AAA to change the finish to their TripleMania main event. That supposedly Andrade was supposed to go over, and then they flipped it to Kenny Omega going over because, well, Kenny had just lost to Christian the night before on the first episode of Rampage. So in order not to beat Kenny Omega twice in 2 nights, they decided to cause Andrade to lose. Now, this to me should be a bigger deal. Not because of, if that doesn't work for me, brother. That's part of the reason why this should be a big deal. Another reason why this should be a big deal is because it completely deflated Andrade, right? I think this was his AAA debut. He popped up a couple of times to challenge Kenny Omega. I think this was his big debut. It was a big main event type match. It was the co-main event. And neither one of them are bigger stars than Psycho Clown. They brought out Ric Flair for this whole thing. They put Conan, even put himself in it. And Conan is, shaped like a Ninja Turtle, an old Ninja Turtle at that. And he put himself out there to get put in the figure 4 and to take bumps and stuff like that. And then Andrade lost. And it kind of wasted all of that stuff that they had built up. Like they were building it for Andrade to be the new sort of, not the face of AAA, but to be the hero of AAA, to get their title back. And then he lost. And it wasted all that good equity that they had. And why would any partnership have you invest so much into that story and into this scene? This was the biggest event of AAA's year. And you caused the guy that they wanted to make a star, who should be a star in Mexico already, La Sombra, you caused him to lose because of politics. Because you hot-shotted Christian versus Kenny Omega on a Friday show that it didn't need to be on. You could have posted it for the Wednesday Dynamite show the next week or something like that. And to me, that's offensive. So that's absolute garbage. And the fact that people have just kind of swept this under the rug is bullshit. And I've seen people say, well, nobody was watching TripleMania. Save it for a bigger event. I'm like, you don't understand. This was AAA's biggest event. Nobody is going to watch any other AAA event other than this one. And why on earth would you want AEW to have the title switch of your title? They just did that shit to Impact. Why would you want, well, we're going to have the AAA Mega Championship rematch, Andrade versus Kenny Omega, on an episode of Dynamite, a throwaway episode of Dynamite, so he can bang out a rating. And then that's it. That's fucked up. That's big spoon, little spoon. That's not a partnership. Okay, that's AEW controlling it. Now, of course, everybody knows that AEW is in controlling of Kenny Omega's bookings. So in these situations, you will almost always be in control of the bookings of your guy. Except when you're in the little spoon situation. And AAA's been in that position a lot. Laredo Kid is another one of Conan's guys. And I remember Conan had to get kind of pissy at Court Bauer because Court Bauer kept having his various dudes beat Laredo Kid. And Conan had to eventually say, like, what are you doing? Like, this is one of my guys. I'm trying to build this guy up here. People are going on YouTube and seeing this guy get beat constantly. Like, that's bullshit. Stop doing it. And, but in this situation, it wasn't Conan's fault. It wasn't Conan's fault. You hot-shotted the previous match and then flipped the titles. That's bullshit. Okay? No. And even if it was Impact's idea, you could have told Impact, all right, I don't know what we're going to do. You want to get your belts? Look, I'm not going to hotshot the match for a Friday, and then he has another match on Saturday, and that's why this Super Clash, everybody working together shit doesn't really work out, because and some people smartly said, oh, hey, Kenny Omega told a great story about losing his titles back to back. Losing on Friday could have been a great excuse for him to lose Saturday too. Because in a real fight, if you get knocked out on Friday night and then you come back and you fight again Saturday, chances are you probably could lose again because you're not really well rested from the previous fight. That's a good excuse. And I've seen some smart people say that. Like, that would have been a great way to excuse why he lost to Andrade, to say he lost to Andrade because he was dehydrated, he was tired, or whatever from the previous match. And then you could still pop your rating by doing AEW Omega versus Andrade on TV. You still could have done that. But this absolutely is embarrassing, and we should be talking more about this. This is absolute garbage. So the second thing is everybody's saying that Andrade is lazy. This did not begin with the Kenny Omega Andrade match. It actually began when Andrade worked with Laredo Kid somewhere in Texas. Somebody had recorded the match, Laredo Kid versus Andrade, and they were like, oh, Andrade is working his WWE NXT style, because that kind of became the narrative. The narrative now is that it's WWE's fault Andrade isn't having mind-blowing, amazing matches anymore. That's the argument, and the argument is either that or he's lazy. Right now, he didn't have the best match with Laredo Kid possible. It was decent, but it wasn't great. Okay, and then he had the match on Dynamite with Matt Sydal, and of course Meltzer, and everyone says like, oh, he looks like he got outworked in that. So now they're saying it again. Meltzer came out with his report for the TripleMania match, to which he said that Andrade was working to have a good match, while Kenny Omega was working to have a, quote, really good match. In other words, again, Andrade wasn't working as hard as he could. This, of course, is the second time he's said this. Of course, he said the same thing about the Matt Sydal match. And you know what? I don't know. Like, I'm not that familiar with Lasombra. I did watch a lot of his stuff when he was in. I watched his match with Shinsuke Nakamura in New Japan. I watched a couple of matches of his in Mexico. I'm not that familiar with Lasombra, but I can tell you that anybody who wants to blame WWE and NXT for this, it's ridiculous. I feel like that's an escape hatch for a lot of people. They're just kind of like, oh, he was great until he went there, and all of a sudden he sucks now. And it's like, does he really suck? Because the match wasn't that bad. So it's the question of people having unnecessarily high expectations, and him wanting to do a match a certain way, which it might be lazy, who knows. But it's also a situation of, hey, the guy is older now than he was before. I think he's more muscular now. Well, actually, I think he might be less muscular now than he was before. But he was in NXT for what, 4? Well, he was in WWE, let's put it like that, which includes NXT. I think he signed in 2016. He left in 2018, and he left WWE in 2020, right? That's like 4 years, right? So you mean to tell me that in 4 years, everything that he learned before that was flushed out of his brain, and now he can't work the same style that he used to work before? Maybe he learned that he doesn't have to work that style in order to really have good matches anymore. Maybe he doesn't have to tear up his knees. Maybe that's part of the thing. Maybe he has an injury. There's a lot of things that could be going on here. And for people to be like, well, it's obviously he was taught the WWE style, and now that's all he knows how to do. It's like, how offensive to his lifelong history of Lucha Libre that it can all be flushed out of his brain by a couple of years in a performance center. That's crazy. That's crazy. But we know that Andrade did have some injuries. He was injured right before he got released, actually. So that could be it. Maybe he did hurt his knee or his back or something like that. And now he doesn't see that style as being beneficial to his knees and backs and stuff like that. He's older. He's not that much old. He's not an old man, but he's older than he was when he was doing all the crazy Lucha Libre stuff. It's like saying, Rey Mysterio, who is 45 or something like that now, doesn't work like he did. Well, he works better than he did maybe in 2017 or something like that, but like he did in 1990s. Like, obviously after a couple of knee surgeries, after a back surgery or something like that, philosophy change and technique change and stuff like that, of course you're going to grow as a performer and become a different performer. Now, of course, people are going to say, well, we preferred for you to be a more lucha libre, fast, go, action oriented guy, and you're not doing that anymore. Obviously this is WWE's fault. And I'm just kind of like, I don't know, man. Maybe it's just styles. Maybe he changed his style. And he doesn't want to work that style anymore. It might be injuries. He might just be limited in what he can do now, and he doesn't want to discuss it, or whatever the case may be. But I think that the narrative that he has become lazy or that it's WWE's fault is absolutely asinine. The guy's not having bad matches. If anything, I think the match with Matt Sydal was too 50-50, and they need to book less 50-50 matches, and he should have just went in there and killed them. They had no problem doing that when it comes to Cody and Malachi Black, so why did Matt Sydal get so much offense in that situation? It was ridiculous. But this leads to my third point, that a lot of people are turning on Andrade. Remember how people worshipped him when he left WWE? There's a lot of people who are like, oh, Andrade is one of the best wrestlers in the world. He's so good. He's so great. And now they're kind of like, well, he's lazy. Well, it's the WWE's fault. He's just not up to par anymore. And it's gotten really strange, and it's really a hard lesson in fickle fandoms that how many people have turned on Andrade since he left WWE. And part of it, some people who are kind of fans of his, again, are blaming WWE for it. But other people are just taking pot shots at him. Like I've even seen people start to say now, like, the guy looks like $1 million, but he has no charisma. He has no connection with any audience. He's not over. He can't speak. All the things that, when WWE had him on the shelf and were saying, oh yeah, he can't really speak English and, that kind of stuff. He looks great, but he can't really communicate. It was, how dare they say that? He could be the face of everybody's Latino audience. He could be the man. But now that he's not under the WWE umbrella anymore, people are saying the same thing that was kind of buzzing around Stanford. Yeah, he can't really cut promos. He doesn't really have a connection with any audiences. He can't really communicate, yada, 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 all this stuff. I'm just kind of like, wow, I cannot believe how fast people turned on this guy. It has not been that long, and I'm sure his AEW appearances have not helped him. And that is absolutely true. AEW has not booked him that well. He's only had one match the entire time he's been under contract for them. He's of course going to have his second match at All Out, but this is nuts to me. It's crazy that we got this situation that this guy is just being ripped apart now by the fandoms. And yes, I do believe, this goes to my fourth point, that it started with Dave Meltzer, as most things do. I think once Dave Meltzer said that he did not have a good match with Sydal, or that he wasn't working that hard with Sydal, that became the focal point. So what we started seeing here is when Andrade saw, or heard rather, that Meltzer was basically calling him lazy and that he wasn't working too hard to have a really good match. Andrade responded on Twitter by saying that Dave Meltzer never has anything positive to say about him or his fiance, and that, he doesn't really care about these star ratings. This, of course, feeds into point 3, where there were fans who were, apparently this promo was in Spanish and I didn't understand it, where he promised to have a 5-star match with Kenny Omega, proving that not only did he care about star ratings, but he actually wanted to impress Dave Meltzer or whatever. And I was like, well, look, for starters, we know Dave Meltzer didn't really start the star rating thing. It's just a ripoff, not only of, Ken Cornette and his friend who has started doing it first. It's also just a Siskel and Ebert thing. They used to do the thumbs up, thumbs down thing. It's just, that's all critics do. Source Magazine had your 5 mics, 4 mics, 3.5 mics, all that garbage. And people used to always say, like, I don't give a fuck about, what ratings people give you. Prince was another one who, he didn't mind when he was being loved. But Prince used to write diss records for for people who didn't give him good ratings, specifically people in New York. Ice Cube was another one who used to do that. So there's a history of wrestlers, actors, different types of people who, once they get criticized by the big critics of their arena, they basically just turn into be like, you know what, fuck them. We do our thing, and as long as our fans like it, we like it. But that bubble that exists of people who really, really, really care about what Dave Meltzer thinks, that bubble exists. And that bubble is the bubble that's turning on him. That's also the bubble who really wanted him to leave WWE and that was also worshiping him. So it's a very strange situation for him to be in. But ultimately, it's very, very weird. I still find it very strange that anybody cares what Dave Meltzer thinks, especially after all the times he has give good ratings to matches he said was trash. I mean, after he said that he didn't like the Nick Gage, Chris Jericho match, but he still gave it 4 stars because the fans liked it. I said to myself, that's just another excuse to not listen to him. Just like he gave a match 7 stars because he thought that, to break the rating scale in order to piss people off because people were too invested in what he had to say. And that was the only smart thing that he did. He tried to obliterate his own credibility by saying, okay, I'm gonna give this match 7 stars so people can stop, listening to me and over investing in what I say. But then people just changed, because they're lemmings. A lot of these wrestling fans are lemmings. They just changed their opinions to, oh, this is a 7-star match. Like these matches are 5 stars. These matches are 5 stars. And that's why I say I don't rate matches. I don't. I just say whether I liked it or whether I didn't like it. Because I could like it for different reasons. A match could be rated higher than one for a different reason. For instance, I like technical wrestling, but sometimes I find technical wrestling to be boring. Because you can technically wrestle very well, but be very boring doing so. Like Zack Sabre Jr. He's boring as shit. I don't care what you say. That doesn't mean that I don't like Jonathan Gresham, who does technical wrestling. I enjoy his technical wrestling, and I will probably rate his matches much higher than Zack Sabre Jr. I find Zack Sabre Jr. to be fucking pathetic. I may like comedy matches. I may like, somebody who does a comedy match, but it's actually entertaining. It's actually funny. It's actually, comedic. But somebody else does comedy wrestling and I don't find it to be that funny, or I find it to be stupid or whatever. It's okay. You're not going to have a consistent, almost scientific way of deciding what matches are great and what matches suck. There's not going to be any system like that. So anybody who tries to create one is only going to end up making themselves a hypocrite. That's why I don't rate matches. I just say whether I enjoyed it or not. That's the barrier. Enjoyed, didn't enjoy. Liked, didn't like. That's it. And I should be able to explain why I liked something or why I didn't like it. But people like Meltzer who are constantly trying to be almost scientific and this is a fact because this is what good wrestling is. It's like, no, because you're going to end up being a hypocrite. You're going to end up being a hypocrite and people should stop listening to you. And, this is, this is nuts, and it's of course hypocritical also that Dave Meltzer didn't say anything about, or he has not made a big deal out of AEW changing that finish. Again, if I can imagine if WWE had called and says, oh yeah, our guy has to win, they probably would have been like, yo, what the fuck? That's bullshit. Remember they used to do that with NXT, I believe. They used to, have NXT guys put over, or Evolve guys put over NXT talent. And they would say like, oh, I remember seeing on the message boards and stuff like that back in the day, that if an NXT talent is in an Evolve ring, the NXT talent is going to win. That wasn't always the case, but it happened more often than not. And I remember people saying like, how unfair that was, that these people are, you're sending NXT talents and they have to go over. And I'm like, well, they kind of you know, kind of most of the time they're bigger stars. They have more exposure, you know, and plus WWE was giving Evolve money anyway, so it's kind of like, yeah, push our guys, you know, help our guys get over in these audiences in these markets or whatever. I could get that, unless AEW was giving AAA cash. You know, I don't see how they get to change their finish for their title. It's not even the situation where it's AEW's title. It's AAA's title. It's AAA's big event, and Andrade is one of their guys. You know, but Andrade is also an AEW guy, and so is Kenny Omega. And this is the situation that they find themselves in when everybody is quote unquote working together. You know. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, donate to the channel. What do you think of all this stuff? And I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace.
Tell me what's worse than learning all that you led to believe was all horse crap. They distort, so question as